Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I wanted to break down some of my favorite cryptos that I'm watching inside of the market. When we're talking about cryptos that can give us life-changing wealth, it's important to be able to understand market cycles, it's important to be able to understand fundamentals, and it's important to be able to wrap all of that together with market cycle psychology. When we combine all three of these strategies, it puts us at a strategic advantage over the rest of the market, and I've been able to realize multi-millions of dollars in profit by following these strategies. I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite charts, some of my favorite altcoins that I've been investing in, and I wanted to be able to teach you guys exactly how you can do the exact same things that I have long term. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video. All of these are going to be numbered through market cap, so when we're talking about some of my favorite cycles, they're all going to be different in their own way. Some of these are going to be cryptos I like from a fundamental perspective. Some of these are going to be cryptos that I like from a psychological perspective, being inside of what the chart shows us. And there might be other various reasons for why I'm personally invested into these. But when we're combining all of these strategies, I find that we're most likely to be able to make a good amount of profit long term. And I want to talk a little bit about my reasoning for what I'm looking for in the markets. So right off the bat, I think that the best one to start with is going to be Dogecoin. Twitter has the plans to migrate towards being a complete financial app where you can trade, where you can invest, but you can also do your own social media all in one. And I do believe that when that happens, Dogecoin will be the payment system of that. So there's a narrative back behind it. You know, there's already been talk of this. They already have all of that stuff building in the background of Twitter as we speak. And when we're talking about what is the most engaged community on Twitter, it's crypto Twitter. When we're looking at what hashtags are constantly trending the most, it's always crypto hashtags. Even in the low point of our bear market, we saw a lot of the same stuff. So Twitter is going to be migrating towards being a financial app. And when that happens, Dogecoin will have its place inside of that. Now with Dogecoin, we've spent all of this time in this bottom formation, and it's my favorite setup considering it looks just like 2015 Bitcoin. Looking at this same sort of double bottom formation before we see this breakout right here. And I think that that's really where we're at right now. The difference is Bitcoin spent 288 days in the side of this bottom, and Dogecoin has spent about 608, a little over 600 days inside of this entire bottom. All we've recently done over the last little while, we finished our first impulse to begin the new cycle, followed by the short-term ABC correction. I believe that we're about to be going into a wave 3 next. It'll probably run up to this range high being about 16 cents, but could even break out of that, maybe run all the way up to about 20 cents, flip that level before we see an even bigger move. And I ultimately believe that Dogecoin is going to be headed upwards of about 35, 36 cents. From where we're at currently today, you're looking at about close to a 3x, about exactly a 3x type of a move. And the reason I like this is because it has a great market cycle. We've spent all of this time bottoming, and we've spent all of this time accumulating sideways. Now that we've just started the first higher highs of the new trend, we're about to see a lot of big movement coming in. So don't be surprised if some big narrative starts spinning off around Dogecoin and Elon Musk all over again. And then it was already being showed to us inside of the chart, because that's what always happens. We always see that the charts are about to break out. We buy into them because the charts look good, and then it's always some stupid narrative that takes off that drives the price up. So whatever that silly narrative is going to be, we're already positioned into these knowing that the chart is setting up for a big breakout. We've broken descending resistance. It's already starting to get continuation in the short term. Don't miss out for Dogecoin, because I can almost guarantee you, just to the all-time high, this is still a really good, long-term hold. For a high cap crypto, getting an 8x to the all-time high, that's still really solid. So, don't fade Dogecoin just because it's got a high market cap. I still think that this thing's going to run in a big way. Next up is going to be one of my favorite cryptos that a lot of people are going to fade. People don't realize that Hex was a top 3 crypto in market cap at the top of the last cycle. When we were at the top of the crypto cycle, Hex was sitting at number 3 in position, right behind Bitcoin, right behind Ethereum. And I do believe that this thing is going to surprise a lot of people once more. When we're looking at this thing, it has truly the biggest bullish divergence I've probably ever seen inside of the OBV. We had this massive lower low when the fork happened, when they launched Pulse Chain, because everybody that was holding Hex on the Ethereum network got duplicated Hex on the Pulse Chain network. So when they provided liquidity to that, it basically diluted it. We saw a massive 90% correction, and I do think that this is going to end up reversing very soon. Even though we saw the 90% correction, we never made a lower low past the point of almost 2 cents. So when I see this, making this big inverse head and shoulder, all we're really waiting for currently is for us to break out of this neckline. Once we break out of this neckline, we're going to end up seeing this probably just retest the descending resistance, right? So descending resistance, where we're at today on the log scale, you'd be looking at anywhere from like 2.5 to like 5x approximately. And I do think that this thing's going to be breaking out in a big way. We've spent a long time just kind of consolidating in this bottom. This looks just like a massive capitulation before it bottoms, considering the momentum indicators are actually showing exhaustion. We're seeing a reversal pattern playing out on the bottom of this correction. I think that this thing's about to break out, retest about 5 cents. We'll probably pull back from that level, revisit 1.5 cents, right at that level that we bottomed at the end of the year, 2022, beginning of 2023. From there, I think we'll hold support before we eventually break out of this downtrend. So this is what I'm watching out for with Hex long term. I think that this thing has massive upside potential, considering just to the all-time high, it's like a 51x from where we're at today. I think that you're not going to find that in most cryptos. And with it already having proven to hit the top 3 market cap without being listed on CoinMarketCap, without being listed on CoinGecko, without being listed on any centralized exchanges, I have nothing but confidence this thing ends up flying once more into this bull run. Next up is going to be Pulse. Now, Pulse Chain itself is going to be a layer 1, and this is really why I think the Hex itself is going to get so much more value, is because now that they've launched their own layer 1, this thing has $1 billion in market cap. I think that if it just hits the market cap of Hex, you're looking at an 88x from here, and if it goes and surpasses what Hex did in the last cycle, you're talking over 100x returns. So I think that this one is a dark horse candidate for a layer 1, one that most people aren't talking about, but it's the most decentralized layer 1 that exists, which I think is a huge reason why you should be holding this. Now, as it stands, all we've really done is we just flipped this first sort of mid-cycle point, and this is our first higher high of the new trend, right? Because we had this big correction. This was our first support, and then we broke down. For us to be breaking back above, retesting that same level, reclaiming it as new support, it shows that the trend has shifted. I do think that we're about to see this thing run all the way back up to those prior all-time highs. When the TVL itself is already at a new all-time high in price discovery, and we're looking at the pulse chart sitting at the mid-cycle point, this is going to end up catching up to the volume. Volume precedes price, and that's the ultimate reason why this thing hasn't ended up, breaking out quite as fast. I think that once the volume, continues into price discovery, this thing is going to end up making a big move to those all-time highs, and it's eventually going to end up doing the same thing. So if you want something that could really take off in a big way, if it only hits the same market cap as Hex did in the last cycle, you're at an 88x. That's still a life-changing amount of wealth for anybody. So watch out for Pulse Chain. Next up is going to be Meus DAO. Meus is one of my favorites. This is a layer 2. Now, when we're talking about layer 2s, the reason they're valuable is because Ethereum sucks. Ethereum has gas fee issues. Whenever you try and use it, whenever the network gets congested, it's basically impossible because it's expensive. The average person gets priced out of being able to actually participate in the network. So the reason layer 2s are going to blow up is because of the fact these actually make Ethereum scalable. They take the transactions, move them onto their own chain, and then ultimately that helps scale the network. Now, when we're talking about Meus, the lead developer of this project is Vitalik Buterin's mom, which is the creator of Ethereum. Vitalik gave the Meus Foundation $100 million to start the project. After that, we've actually seen that the Meus DAO has blown up. They're actually going to be giving tokens back to their early ecosystem projects in the form of these grants. And I think that these grants are going to end up exploding the entire ecosystem. Out of all of the layer 2s, comparing it to Optimism, comparing it to Arbitrum, this one is the only one with a truly decentralized sequencer. And I think that with Vitalik really preaching true decentralization, I think that this is the one that you need to be watching out for because his mom is the one building it. So watch out for this. We've already broken out of this bottom formation, but like I said, guys, with all of this new volume coming in here, and with them having all of these token grants just now getting distributed, I think that this was about to be breaking out. We'll probably at the minimum run up to this lower high being $180. But big picture, this thing is going to be going into a brand new all-time high. This one is one of the most bullish charts that I see in the market. It's why I was buying it all the way back down in here. Now that it's starting to break out, I don't think that you're late by any means. It only has 467 million in market cap. So it could still hit that 50 to 100x potential even where it's at right now. It's just kind of getting a little bit harder to reach that. But this is probably the one layer 2 you want to watch out for the most, because this Meus token is used more than Arbitrum or Optimism is in either of those ecosystems. So watch out for Meus. Next up is going to be GMX. Now, GMX is going to be the leader built on Arbitrum. This is the DEX over there for leverage trading and whatnot. So when we're talking about GMX, By you providing liquidity, you're actually able to earn fees that are generated from the volatility of buyers and sellers trading in the market. So all of the fallout with the centralized exchanges, I believe, is going to be the real selling point for why these DEXs blow up. And this one generates so much revenue from the trading fees itself that that's going to be a very big attraction for anybody looking to invest in a protocol long term. It's one of the reasons I bought into it. Not only can you participate in the rev share from providing liquidity from the traders, but you can also see that they generate an insane amount of profit from doing so. So it's going to be very attractive for the average person just looking to participate in DeFi. Talking about this, we've broken from descending resistance. We've made our first impulse to begin this new sort of cycle, or at least it looks like that. I think that we're either at the very end of this ABC correction, or we could make one more small lower low. Either way, I think that the next move coming is a wave 3, and we'll probably end up breaking out of these range highs before starting this next cycle. When I'm talking about this crypto at 400 million in market cap, I still think it can 50 to 100x from these levels. Depending on how much money comes into this cycle, the institutions are going to be looking for what generates profit, what actually creates revenue, and GMX is the most profitable DEX arguably inside of the Arbitrum chain. So if you want a good investment, this one's probably the leader. It's the most blue chip one that exists, so watch out for GMX. Next up is going to be Magic or Treasure DAO. This is another one that is built on Arbitrum. This is the open sea of Arbitrum. You can participate in different NFT drops, different launch pads, gaming things, and all of that fun stuff. Now, when we're looking at this, it's been in a massive accumulation. We bottomed in June. We're over 600 days kind of making this big bottom formation, and we're pretty much at the point of breaking out. We've spent all of this time maintaining higher highs and higher lows on this trend line. Now that we've kind of broken out of the mid-cycle point, we've retested this prior level, going all the way back over in here. Now that we've broken out from even that, I think that we're nearing the point where we're about to see this thing go into a massive new high. When I look at this, I see it pretty much playing out like that, making a much bigger move, and that looks a little bit funky, but you know, regardless, we've spent over 600 days in this bottom. I think that the next move coming is where we do actually go pretty close to those all-time highs, and maybe even into a new all-time high. You know, for this thing to hit 3.3 billion in market cap, that'd be a 10x. You know, I think that that's more than reasonable. For this thing to hit 33.9 or 34 billion in market cap, that'd be 100x. You know, you're getting up there in valuation. That'd be a little bit trickier to find. But, you know, when we're talking about how much value OpenSea created and how much better it actually is to use this on Arbitrum because, you know, the gas fee issues, I think that this thing will take off, and it does still have that same 50 to 100x potential. It's just that once you're above like 200 million in market cap, you know, the odds of you getting that are just a little bit harder. Well, it's a lot a bit harder. You're better off finding those really early, like in the 50 to 100 million dollar market cap range, because then your profit potential, you know, it just increases. Because if you buy one of those and it takes off in a big way, the odds of you hitting 100x are much more reasonable than you buying into something that's already worth 10 billion in market cap, and then it's got to go to an insane valuation from there to get the same gain, right? So that's my point. Magic is still undervalued big picture. We've only ever just built this bottom. So when we're talking about something that can move in a big way, I still think the upside potential will be massive with this, regardless if it doesn't hit exactly 100x. I think that it could, and it really is just dependent on how much money comes into this cycle long term. Next up is going to be Synapse protocol. Synapse is a token bridge, so if you don't know what that is, in this crypto cycle, we have all of these different chains, and the only way that we can actually move money, let's say from the Ethereum network over to the Pulse Chain network, and from the Pulse Chain network over to the Arbitrum network, and the Arbitrum network over to the Optimism network, and so on and so forth, is by using a token bridge. Some of them have their own bridge built on their chain, some of them don't. This is its own bridge, and it offers multiple different chains of support. Talking about this one, we've broken from all descending resistance. Even if we make a lower low, it'll just be a short-term correction before we break out and go higher. We've got good volume coming in here. We made a perfect Wyckoff accumulation where you make these 3 lower lows, the third lower lows, the final spring-loaded bounce before it breaks out. It's exactly what we saw the price do. Broke out of all descending resistance right here. Now, I think that this is kind of the final sort of retest that we're going to end up having. If you get the opportunity to buy that dip, that's probably the last one we're going to get before this thing does end up reversing on the big picture. It's only got $140 million total market cap, so the upside potential becomes a lot higher when you're getting at that sub 200 million range. I think that bridges are going to be a big narrative to watch because there's going to be all this new money coming into the market. They're going to be leaving centralized exchanges and they're going to be bridging on chain, and they're going to have to use these sort of things to do that. And I've actually used Synapse protocol multiple times to bridge. Works amazing, never had any issues. So I actually do invest in it. And it's also listed on Coinbase. So, you know, looking at cryptos listed on Coinbase sitting at under 200 million in market cap, those are ones that are probably going to end up seeing, you know, 50 to 100x potential long term over the whole cycle. So watch out for Synapse. Next up is going to be Stargate Finance, another token bridge, another one of my favorite cryptos. This is probably my favorite token bridge as far as an investment to hold long term. It just has this big accumulation, lots of good volume that's happening down in here. We're about to be starting this next breakout. I think that we're going to be running to about 96 cents in the short term. Might retest this level before this thing's really going to start sending it into a new all-time high. When we're talking about this thing revisiting the cycle high that we were at from where we're at right now, you know, you're looking about a 6x at 122 million in market cap. I think that this thing definitely will have that 50 to 100x potential. The reason why I think Stargate is the better investment is mainly because, well, I love the chart. I like the chart of Synapse too, but I love the chart of Stargate. The big thing that sells me over maybe Synapse protocol is just because Stargate itself is built on what's called Layer 0, and Layer 0 is a new chain that's going to be launching sometime probably this year that's going to be really big. It's already got a ton of money from big, you know, venture capitalists, you know, different sort of big crypto companies, Coinbase and all of that stuff. So I think that that's going to be another big narrative, and this one's built on it. So the best thing to do is buy these before that chain comes out, before the hype comes in, because that's when we're going to end up seeing these things really start to send it in price. So Stargate Finance is one of my favorites. It doesn't have very much money in market cap, and I do think that fundamentally it has a really strong narrative to drive price, being the whole bridge narrative when all of this money ends up dispersing from centralized exchanges to decentralized chains. Next up is going to be Ink. Now this is incentive token. Now I love incentive token. This is actually the token that you earn if you provide liquidity on PulseX, which is the decentralized exchange built on Pulse Chain. You get a token showing that you provide liquidity, and if you take that token and stake it, you actually earn incentive token for doing so. So it's a farmed token on PulseX, and most people are fading it. I hear a lot of people just thinking that it's something stupid, but with this thing now breaking out, showing more volume down here in this breakout than ever before, I can almost guarantee this thing is about to absolutely moon in price. Now the reason I think that this thing is going to end up doing so good is because when you're talking about providing liquidity, most people just don't understand what that even means. So they don't understand the value of Ink. When we're talking about providing liquidity on Uniswap, that's how we're able to actually trade between certain token pairs. There has to be somebody that provides liquidity of Ethereum as well as some other type of crypto, USDC say, to be able to actually trade in and out of them. There has to be both pairs to be able to have buyers and sellers. So if we're providing liquidity on Uniswap, let's say I'm providing Ethereum and I'm providing Uniswap token. When I provide that liquidity, I get a token that basically shows that I own this much of the pool. Now on Uniswap, there's nothing that you can really do with those LP tokens, but on PulseX, you can actually stake it and farm Ink. And I do think that Ink is going to be taking off in a huge way. Right now, it's building this big ascending triangle. I think that it's about to make a big move all the way up to the top of this lower high, being about $8.40, and people are going to finally start to understand just how powerful this cycle is about to be. Now when we're talking about Ink, the real reason I think it's got so much upside potential is because Uniswap doesn't allow the ability to be able to farm, you know, an incentive token, but PulseX actually built Ink as the incentive to provide liquidity. So the more people that provide liquidity, the more people that actually stake that liquidity token, they're going to be able to be farming Ink, and I think it's going to be blowing up as Pulse Chain as a whole blows up. To the prior all-time highs, it's almost a 25x. I think it's going to blow up in a huge way, and even just holding the token and not even farming it, you know, could be lucrative, but I think the best strategy is obviously to be farming this thing, considering you can actually just get it for free. Last up on today's video is going to be Grail or Camelot DEX. When we're talking about what Arbitrum DEXs have the most volume, this one is actually leading. In 24-hour volume, this thing has significantly more volume than any other exchange, and it has, you know, it has a very small supply. I think that this thing is going to end up blowing up in a huge way, considering all we've done was just this first little cycle, and all that really is our first impulse, right? This is our first Elliott wave cycle. We're getting ready for a wave 3. This is wave 1, this is wave 3, this was wave 5. We finished our ABC correction right here, ABC, and now we're getting ready for a big picture wave 3. So the amount of upside potential I think this has is absolutely massive. I think it's going to at least hit 10K per token. You know, 10K is only right here, so chances are this thing's going to be worth like 50 to 100K per token if I had to be completely honest with my price target. So it's $1,600. So if it hits 100x, you'd be looking at about 170K per token, and I think that's more than reasonable. With such a small supply, you know, these things are going to get ballooned out of proportion, and it already has so much more volume than anything else built on Arbitrum. and at only $31 million total market cap, this thing is going to moon in a big way. And they just actually added the ability for you to be able to trade uranium pairs in crypto. And I think that that's just so amazing, considering I'm a big time believer in uranium. I look a lot into those different stocks and companies. And I think that any crypto that's ultimately bridging that gap between TradeFi and DeFi is going to be able to make a lot of money. And I think the Grail is a good one to be watching for, because they've already proven to have some of the most volume being generated on the Arbitrum chain. And Arbitrum is seeing the most DeFi money happening inside of crypto as a whole. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to break down some of my favorite cryptos in the ecosystems, ones that I think, across the board, whether it's Arbitrum, whether it's Meus, whether it's, Pulse Chain or Ethereum, all of these are going to end up doing really well. And there's some that I've been investing in over the last year or more, depending on what it was. And I think that with this crypto cycle having more upside potential than anything we've ever seen, it's all of these altcoins that are solving a major purpose, that are actually making some of the biggest advancements, that are going to see some of the most value. And these are some that are narratives that I think are going to take off in a big way. Arbitrum, something we've been investing into. Bridges, token bridges, layer ones, and all of these things are all going to end up blowing up because of the issues of Ethereum. So just watch out for these. I think that they're all solid. I'll link them inside the description of this video so that you guys know what the tokens are actually called, so you can search them. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you guys want to see how I'm investing long term, all of these have been prior signals that we're in profit on. We've been talking about these cryptos for a long time. If you guys want to end up seeing how I'm buying them, when I'm buying them, and most importantly, when I plan to take profits on these, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website for my private group. Love to have you guys in there. At the end of the day, if you guys want to know different pre-sales I'm getting into, IDOs, launch pads, anything like that, I end up posting those all inside of my private group. So if you guys want to be able to see any of these altcoins that I'm talking about before I ever cover them on YouTube, you got to make sure that you guys follow my website linked below. Thank you so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.